Alright, hey everybody, Basil Not the Herb here, and we're gonna talk about stuff about Monster Hunter Rise. Primarily, the things that we've seen in the trailers, and how I'm feeling about the demo and everything. I have a little bit of footage that we can show off. Not as much as I probably would like, just because I haven't really had as much time to really get into the stuff, and I've just been kind of enjoying the Monster Hunter Rise demos for what they are. But a handful of you were really interested to know my further thoughts on the game and everything that's going on with the development. I'm going to turn this off briefly so that my eyes don't hurt. But I've been playing Monster Hunter since Generations. Not just Generations Ultimate, but Generations. So a lot of my opinions and viewpoints on what I want a Monster Hunter game to be is very skewed because Generations was the fourth Generations Monster Hunter game, but like perfected and added onto. There's a lot of discussion about how the development into Generations went into. It was a different team, and they basically built off of what was already there, which I think is really good. And unfortunately, but also kind of fortunately, that's the game that got me into Monster Hunter, and at the same time, to a lot of people's perspective, it's not really what Monster Hunter was. Like, Generations was like the biggest departure from what Monster Hunter was for a lot of people, and to many, and I would even say nowadays most people agree this was a good transition. This was exactly the kind of like experimentation and stuff that Monster Hunter always needed, but it's not something that everybody liked. And then of course Monster Hunter World came out, and I feel like that filled the niche for people who wanted something more of a traditional Monster Hunter with slightly more like over-the-top moves that were automatically built into your kit, while also moving into a generation where the graphic fidelity was super high, the maps were different, the monsters were a little bit different, just a real step forward. My viewpoint of Monster Hunter World is that I actually have exactly the opposite reaction to it. Like I just said, with people thinking that Generations was a good experimental phase, but they didn't particularly want it again. That's how I feel about Monster Hunter World. To kind of like compare the two before getting into Rise, I liked how in Generations you had a lot of choices for all the weapons. All the weapons had a different play style and different power moves that you could use. You could make a lot of different builds, and while there definitely was a case and an argument for speedrunners, the game felt like, hey, no matter what you're doing, if you can beat the monster, you're doing it right, and you're having fun. And that was always a blast for me, because that means I could play however I wanted to play, and I could experiment and have a lot of enjoyment out of it. So where grinding for Monster Hunter ranks and armors didn't feel monotonous because I was always trying something new. Longsword, for instance, I really like Longsword with Valor style with Gen Ultimate, but I think Adept style, which a lot of people think that Longsword, it was catered to Longsword, I think it's better in Dual Blades. I think you get more out of Adept style with Dual Blades and Hammer than you do out of Longsword. But, like, that's the beauty of it. You can do so many different combinations and make it work for you, even if there is technically, like, a best build concept. Like, it didn't matter, because it still came down to skill for knowing how to counter, knowing when to attack, knowing how to get around things. It was awesome. World, you still have that, but there's a lot less choice. Things are a lot more homogenized, and there's only one way to play Longsword, only one play to play a Hammer, one play to play Charge Blade. And then when Iceborne came out, you had the Clutch Claw, and then it just came into there's only really one way to play this game, period. And it irked the hell out of me. But I've grown over the years to appreciate that World was focused on getting new players in, introducing them, and I also would argue to cater to older school fans who didn't want all of the extra shit that Generations had. So here we are in Rise. Ooh! I'm excited! So let me go ahead and pull the list up again. A lot of the footage you're going to end up seeing is the trailer. And I've made some bulletin points. So the trailer's going to be playing along with either me or my little avatar buddy. But my biggest thing with the trailers alone is that it's really bringing in that GU feel while keeping a lot of the great changes in Monster Hunter World. Like, the best example I can give, Dual Blades, you still have, like, the running animation and the dodge animations that are more akin to how World does it. However, you now also have a skill where if you stab into a monster and the more damage you do, and then there's a big explosion of damage, that's a really cool skill. So you have to find the right time to really get in, stab and slice while also doing all this extra damage, you still have the ability to dodge and have different phases of how you're dodging and you're using your essentially, I don't think it's called Demon Rush, but like your rush modes are. Longsword, you still have all the EI slashes, you know, sort of like the draw in, slice to get the bonus for your spirit gauge, so that you're able to actually do a full roundhouse. Your EI spirit slash, like the big like wide counter move, that has a much wider window than it did in World, and it doesn't cost you an entire gauge on your sword, which makes it to where it's not as much of a pain in the ass to work with, which I would have been fine if it still costed a gauge, just as long as the window was high enough. But now, that's not the case. The sword is, and I actually feel like red gauge lasts a lot less in Rise. I feel like it's much shorter, but I think that's the payoff, is that we have so many ways of countering and getting the gauge up, especially with something we're going to talk about in a minute. Longsword needs to have that much shorter range for red, because you need to be constantly hitting and using your spirit slashes and countering and just being able to do all of that fun stuff. But a lot of that still carry over to World, and then of course Hammer still has like the big wind up, the big sort of like head smash into it, and is still actually now has, instead of in Iceborne where it's like you go into the stance and you have to kind of like hold it to go in there, now when you switch stances, you're just in that stance until you switch back again. Rise is taking a lot of aspects from World, and in my opinion, advancing them, making them bigger, making them much better. But let's talk about the thing that makes me as a GU fan really fucking happy. Because, well, I'll say this before we get into that. This is why I think World, even though I don't like it as much, and even though it just irks the hell out of me with how slow animations feel, how much faster monsters hit, and I don't feel like it's not as fair, but it's like you have to try way harder in World for someone like me, because I feel like I don't have as many options, and I will get way more frustrated with the game because I don't have as many options to cater to me and adjust for what I want. But that's just me. I know a lot of people who really like no, keep it plain and simple stupid, and just give me some cool gimmicks to run with World as a whole. And as I said earlier, I think Clutch Claw made the entire core of hunting the same goddamn thing every time. But to other people, it works. Like, it's exactly what they want out of the game. It's like, hey, here's the system, just get good at it. And that's fine. With Rise, I feel like we've got this really good middle of the road here, because as can be seen like in the trailers, you've got moves like Sakura Slash has come back, and you actually have genuine, like, Sakura Slash was an old GU skill, and to see Sakura Slash come back and for it to work in this game, and with the wirebug system the way it is, which in GU, the skill bar and everything would be really kind of finicky. Like, you wouldn't get to use your skills all that often. Because of that, like, it was a whole other, like, it felt like an add-on to the system was already there. With the wirebugs, you need the wirebugs to either dodge or escape or recover from getting knocked over, so sometimes you have to make the decision of, I don't need my counter move, or I don't need my Sakura Slash, I need to get the hell out of there and hit the monster with normal moves and set myself up for these big over-the-top major hits now. Rise feels like it really is a better blend of everything that we're experiencing with what World set up, where everything you do is a part of your kit, but they've adopted a lot of concepts and a lot of moves from GU and said, okay, cool, we can still make this a part of your kit and make it feel like it's a part of your kit instead of just an add-on. You can add this, it's a tool, it's helpful, but it's something that you have to judge when is the right time to use this. The skills in Generations and Gen Ultimate made the game way too easy, because it was just sort of like a free hit and free use. Yeah, I feel that wasn't as fair of a criticism, but I do think the skill moves would be a little too overpowered, especially when you knew what you were doing. But with what I've experienced in the Rise demo and seen in these trailers, it really feels much more like, hey, this is a tool, this is useful, but if you are not using this at the right time, or you're using it without ever considering just, bug web swinging away to not get hit by something, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage, and it really feels good to have that. I think one of the big last things to really talk about to kind of get the finalized, well, actually there's two things. First off, I also love how in Rise, the art direction has been the focus. I know there's a lot of people who are like, man, the graphic fidelity is so much less, and that sucks, and I'm just over here like, I will always take a game that is technically less graphically impressive and more artistically impressive. I think the areas and the maps, as you might even see in some footage I'll be putting out soon of our Magnamalo fight, more parts of the map are more unique and interesting to look at and kind of run into, even though they're all of the same area. And that's something that Monster Hunter, even back in Generations, was all about. In World, I just feel it's more desert, more forest, more forest. It all felt the same. It looked pretty, but it all looked and felt the same. I will always, always, always say, screw graphic fidelity, give me interesting sights that look different, but are similar, like they're related to one another. And then the last thing I think that is kind of fun to rant and talk about is the Rampage mode. I was skeptical about this Rampage mode. I was really skeptical, and I still kind of am. But having this kind of big event hunt where you essentially have to play tower defense, I gotta know what that's about. I gotta see how fun that is. Is it something where you have to run it with friends? And what's the big reward for it? What's the reason you want to run it? I was talking with my brother about this, and I was saying how I'm very interested in it, but I need to see what the rewards are. And he was like, why does it matter about the rewards? And I just had to point out, it's Monster Hunter. You don't do anything in Monster Hunter just because it's cool, at least not until endgame. You're constantly moving forward to get new armors, get new trinkets, get new weapons. That's the whole point of the game, is to continuously keep going and get stronger. So what I'm curious about is, what is the mechanical sort of reason, what is the metagame of why you want to do this event? Because in truth, like, kind of to give a good example, even if you can play Safi'jiiva now, a lot of people would argue the only thing you need the Safi'jiiva fight for is the weapons, and a lot of people even say you don't really even need that. So, if Safi'jiiva isn't that necessary but is useful, you would argue that you can go either way, and depending on how fun the fight is, it's probably worth the hunt, and I'm still trying to see if I'm even good enough or want to do the Safi'jiiva fights. I feel like I want to get the weapons. I've been warned not to do the armors. I'm going through World very, very late, just because I keep having problems with it, because I'm not very good at World. I love Generations Ultimate, and I like to think I kick ass in that game, but World, I'll ultimately admit I'm trash at that game, and I'm struggling with it. But I would still say that Safi'jiiva is a good example of how, for some, it's a lot of fun, because they love the fight, and they think the weapons, and maybe even the armor is really good. Other people, they could have, oh, the weapons are worth it, but I don't like the fight, or I love the fight, but the weapons aren't really, for me, like, I don't think they're that necessary. With how big of an event the entirety of the Rampage looks like it's going to be, I'm curious is it going to be worth investing the amount of time to do those Rampages because of what rewards you get? I want to do it. It's a cool event. It's nothing like we've seen in Monster Hunter before, and I think it's a good step forward. But I'm worried about it being sort of like a gimmick that doesn't get touched up on all that much until new patches come out, and then you never play it again. Other than that, there's not one monster that's been revealed I don't love. Old and new. A spider that breathes fire, a mud dragon with a Fu Manchu, whatever the hell the giant Cthulhu dragon thing is. That's awesome! Everything about Rise has just got me hyped, and with what the demo has shown off, everything feels faster, feels smoother, and hits harder. To me, it's just taking the speed and the control of GU, the features that, no matter how much I can hate on World, are so good and so necessary for the future of this game, mashing them together and making something of a beautiful combination of the two. And I'll be honest, I hope both teams for Monster Hunter keep doing this. I hope that the GU and Rise teams keep pushing the envelope a little further in one direction, and then World borrows ideas from them and pushes it into a different direction, and they just keep going back and forth so that there's always a different evolution to Monster Hunter. I may never like what the World team does, but I'll always be excited to see how it develops and gets turned into something that the other team creates, because that's the sort of style that I want. Sort of perfection of the basics going forward and continuing to grow them, then adopting those bases and just adding choice and over-the-top bullshit and cool different mechanics. Like, the Wyvern riding, I think, is the best thing Monster Hunter has gotten in a while. It replaces mounting, which I think mounting's fun, but I think Wyvern riding happens a lot less. You have to work harder for it, and it does a crap ton of damage if you do it right. I feel like it's just mounting, but you actually have to try and really think about it. The only thing I'm probably not all that keen about, you could be in the middle of a combo, and you essentially, you know, get taken out of the combo to Wyvern ride. I know for a lot of people that's a big sticking point, and I'm not going to pretend like it doesn't bother me, but I don't think it's as bad as people might think, because I think even with your combo, bopping a monster back and forth into a wall 3 times is going to do more damage and set you up for the combo anyway once the monster gets knocked down. I feel like it's one of those situations, and again, because it doesn't happen all that often, I would say, oh, endemic life, really quick on that, you can just be smart and you could potentially plan ahead on that. Get the spider that, like, launches and grabs the monster so you can tie them all up and send them into the wall sooner, so you're just out of the way, and then if you do really well on the hunt, maybe you'll knock the monster out for another Wyvern ride, or maybe you'll just get the Wyvern ride out of the way, start the hunt hard, and just hit him harder. Or get the skunks and get a fight to start immediately, Wyvern ride the other one, and just start fighting. I just think with Rise, it has so many options for us that we just got taken away from World. And then the other thing I want to talk about is, well, and going back into the graphic fidelity, it looks better to me. I don't care that the textures are muddied. I don't care the textures aren't as refined. The art style and the art direction is leagues above World. It feels like the spirit to me is back in Monster Hunter. So this is sort of like my very generalized concepts of the things that we've seen in the newer trailers. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to react to them any more reaction-based concept and freak out. I just have not had the time, but I hope this is a good enough suffice for everything that's going on. I'm loving the demo. March 26th, after work, you can expect, I wouldn't say a 24-hour stream of Rise, but you can definitely expect me to play that into the wee hours of the night, getting up early in the morning, playing it again, Saturday, and then even Sunday. I might be tempted to skip D&D on Sunday. I don't think I will. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy it. I will see you guys on the 26th. Please check out my Twitch channel to watch us play a bunch of other games, including Monster Hunter, and just enjoy the community. I appreciate that everyone's checking out the videos, and I'm getting good reactions from the comments, and people are very interested to talk and join the Discord. It feels like we're really hitting some growth after a lull of trying to do this all on my own. So I really appreciate that so many of you are coming forward and saying, no, keep going, this is fun. And I will see you guys later on. Have a good day and good rest of the week.